Alright guys, I told you this I told you we've been putting off a lot of RV mods here for a long time, and we finally decided to turn loose on them. So I've got another mod this week. Be a short video, it's short, simple, but something that has aggravated me for a while is the hookup in here in the wet bay on most of your campers. You've got this little plastic, I don't know what you call it, but whatever the hose hooks into here. And I've seen so many nightmares about where people where they unhook and hook their hose up so many times that it ends up breaking off or ends up getting a leak in it. Different various problems. So I've always been a little bit paranoid about that. So what we did a long time ago is we hooked up this little brass elbow, and then I had this little 3-foot hose. And I don't know where I got it from. It's a Camco hose, but I got it from something that came. I don't know if it was a filter or something I had. But anyways, I put the 3-foot hose on there thinking that, okay, well, at least that way I'm not having to hook and unhook from this every single time. But my problem was I'd always wished this hose was shorter. Yeah, I could cut it off and I could put a new end on it, but what's the fun in that, right? So the problem is with the 3-foot hose, I can't leave it hanging out where you feed everything through the hole here, because obviously it would drag on the ground when we're traveling. And so I've always just, after each time, I generally poke it through there, and then I tie my hose from the city water into this up and under here. But I've just never liked how long this hose is, because then even when you unhook, you see it, you got to wrap it up, do something with it. And so to me it still puts a little bit of force, and you can see it wiggle there. You see it puts a little bit of force on that joint right there, and again, I just don't want that to break off. Yeah, I know you can replace them and all that, but I just really don't want to have to do that. So I've been searching around and found some connections that I'm going to change this out with, and I just wanted to share those with you today. It was actually really cheap. I think I got these for 40 bucks or so, and I actually bought 2 of everything just so I always have a spare. If you wanted to go and just buy just one of everything, you could probably do it for about half that. So, you know, 20-25 bucks, you can completely redo this whole thing here and make a whole lot easier to hook up every time you go to hook up at a campground to the city water. So let me show you what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to get this one off of here. And so we'll get that out of the way. Now inside here there is like a little sediment filter right here. I advise you from time to time to take that out and clean it out. I was shocked at how much trash builds up inside there. There was a pretty good bit of dirt in there, and of course that's going to restrict your airflow, and of course it's there to keep you from, if you're ever boondocking and you're using your water pump, that trash, if it gets in your water pump, will lock your water pump down, then you ain't got any water when you're boondocking. So it's just on a little rubber gasket. It just sticks in there just like your regular rubber thing on the end of your water hose. So you can pop it right out, rinse it out, take a brush to it, whatever you need to do, clean that out. So I've recently done that, so I'm not going to do that again today. But alright guys, here's all my gadgets of what I'm going to do. Now what I want to do is, in that wet bay, is coming out of that hookup I showed you, the little white hookup, I want to bring it out a little further so it drops straight down the hole in the bottom that goes where you run your hose through to your city hookup. So I already had one of these, but now I bought another set just to, I always like to have a spare and fresh set. So I could have reused my other one, but again, I like gadgets. But when I had this on there before, even though this screws in there, it does give you about an inch and a half right here once you get it screwed in. That's still not quite enough to make it a straight shot down in that hole. So digging around, I found these little ball valves, and that gives me another inch and a half. So now when I hook these two together, it's going to give me about 3 inches worth. And so I'll just go ahead and screw this together here. Make sure you got your little rubber gaskets in there. They even actually sent extra rubber gaskets and all that. But make sure you got your rubber gaskets in there. and I'd hoped this would have turned enough to line up on top, but it didn't. But being on this side, it's going to be over out of the way. It's going to be on the far side, so that should work. But now you see that gives me double the distance that I did originally have. And then what I want to do is I'm actually going to take, I found a 1 foot hose finally, and it's stainless steel. Not that it needs to be, but again, I just wanted it to be pretty since I'm putting all this other brass stuff on here. And so again, make sure you got your washer inside there. So we'll screw this onto this, and this will replace that old plastic hose we did have. It was a 3 foot, this one's a 1 foot. And so what that does is this will give me just enough that this will just drop through the hole in my wet bay. So you kind of see what it looks like there. And what I'm going to do to that is I actually bought some quick disconnects, and so all you got to do is mash that in there, and so you got a quick disconnect. So I'm going to put one of these on the end of my hose that I normally use when we hook up camping. I'll put the other end on this, and that way I don't even have to worry about screwing the hose on in anymore. I can just run the hose up to the bottom, click it on, we're good to go. I know it's not a huge time saver, but to me it's just peace of mind of not having to wiggle with that hookup inside the wet bay every time, because that was my main concern. You pull and tug on it. I have seen instances or heard of instances where people at the campground will be walking by and trip on their water hose and actually mess that up in there because it'll give it a tug inside on the wet bay, and then they've got a leak, and then you've got all kinds of mess. And you know, I don't like water, campers don't like water, and so this is just something I came up with to make it quick and easy for me.
Okay.
Ready? So again, we'll just take this apart. This is the part that'll go on the hose. This will screw on our attachment here. And just make sure you got everything good and tight. Make sure your rubber washers are sitting very well. And there you go. And so now I've got a quick disconnect on this end, and I'll show you how it looks up in here in the wet bay now. Then we take our other end of our quick connect, put it on our hose, and then that way it'll hook it up and under there. But now you can see here, with that coming out 3 inches, that pretty much makes a straight line right down through my wet bay here, and goes right through there, and it just barely sticks out the bottom side here. And so that's what I wanted before. The 3-inch hose was way too long, 3 foot hose was way too long. And so that gets me exactly where I wanted to go. One word of caution, when I went to put this joint right here on, which is the little cutoff valve that I ordered to give me that extra 1.5 inches, it does want to rub against where you screw it in here at. So I did drop an extra rubber washer inside there just to make sure it gets a good seat and there's no leaks. Again, test everything if you do this on your own. Make sure you ain't got any water spraying anywhere, and make sure all your connections are good and tight. But that's it, guys. It's fixing to start raining on me here. I guess a dark cloud rolled up while we was filming here, so I'll cut this and make it short. But again, just something real quick, something real cheap. Again, like I say, if you buy the single items instead of having a spare, 20-25 bucks, you know, 40-45 if you get 2 of everything. Like I say, I like to have spares. But I'll put all the links to where I bought these down below in the comments. And so if you want to hook something up like this on yours to keep you from having to screw and unscrew every time, especially messing with that joint right there on the wet bay, hopefully it'll help you out. Alright guys, that does it for this video this week. If you hadn't already, please subscribe. It does help us out. It helps push our content out there so other people can see it. We love doing these little videos about the RVs and traveling, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. If you hit the little bell, it'll let you know every time we put a video out there. We do try to be consistent. We put new videos out every Sunday night at 6 o'clock, and so check us out next week.